with the hue for the ECK sigmod. I start this year's series after what would have been the springtime seminar from the 12th of the 12th month of 1435. Look and listen for the light and sound of God with a few hue and the ECK Dream 1 Discourses, Lesson 7. And the opening picture has what I presume Harold and Joanne Klemp standing before concentric circles of radiating light. Joanne Klemp used to have the name Cross, till Harold Klemp had her renamed like property, just like John Jenkins did to her. A woman in the foreground lies on her right side. Before bird-filled clouds, she sits reading a book in between the two scenes with a bird above her right shoulder. In monotheist religions, the women are not renamed. They maintain their father's last name and that sort of thing as, after marriage. But in a lot of cultures, that's in monotheistic culture and some other cultures, people are renamed. But being renamed spiritually, that could be a different thing. Sleeping on one's right side is a symbol of balanced personality and was called Sahasana, or the lion's posture, in accord with the quote about 3 ways dreams influence while in Eckankar. We have the scenes illustrated. The alleged master and his inner secretary are the symbols of direct guidance. The radiation behind them is a symbol of protection from them. Do they really protect us and guide us like that? The woman reading is probably the actual direct guidance. What quality of guidance does he actually give? The woman lying there among 9 birds is a symbol of assurance in that because of her peaceful rest and the 9 birds being a symbol of spiritual counsel, her insights and intuition are her own for her study and experience. People deserve credit for what they teach, encourage, or discourage. We do deserve credit for our own experience and expounding of these, though. Lesson 7, Dreams in Daily Life. And this is my comment. And I understand some of my comments don't make perfectly clear what is being said in the actual discourse, but this is my response. Summary, alternative, my experience of the things. So I am well within my grounds of copyright rules and such, particularly when we're doing something about religion. And that's part of the reason, too, why I do scholastic presentations rather than just read things out. Because I have stuff to say. And your comments, you have stuff to say that's valuable, share it. I would agree with what the ECK Dream 1 Discourses by Harold Klemp has to say on page 147 about having a greater recognition of our inner life by developing a habit of recording dreams and impressions. Is the design of the spiritual exercises of ECK, short here for Eckankar, but they want you to think it means revealed through the Holy Spirit, to slowly open you to outer and inward awareness. The clarification of what they mean is before the end of the page, and saying it is to make you feel like the Mahanta is always teaching you. Even when what you recall is not clear, it seems that the people in Eckankar seem to have less and less actual clarity in their lives as things progress. If they maintain belief in Eckankar instead of interpreting blue phosphenes and the subtle sounds as physical and psychological phenomena, members are asked to call it the light of Ek and the sound current like it is something different entirely. Well, all things belong to God, right? Is the sound ek? Sounds may not be static, and God may be known through sound. But does page 148 really mean to equate that with God? Eckankar wants credit for anything spiritual that happens to its members, except the suicides and the acts that get them negative attention. A woman who dreamt about crushing her bottle of muscle relaxants was said to get direct guidance as an answer to her letter for a dream on how to heal her back when medication and treatment were not working. Now, as much as people say drink with your pills to make them stronger, it's also a great way to die. So if that's not a reason to quit drinking when you're taking pills, I've seen people go crazy, the difference between taking pills and drinking with their pills, or need medical help. So how can a frail man who is often confined to his home cause people to have dreams? Well, you can, again, through teaching and stuff, you can help direct some things. Intuition and projections of assurance of alleged involvement in one's personal life are the other two ways Eckankar says the dreams of its members are seen in daily life. Would it be great to join the waking and sleeping lives? Wouldn't the third part be delusion? I don't want that. The Art of Spiritual Dreaming by Harold Klemp repeatedly calls people to think that the ECK Dream 1 and 2 discourses and the 15 other formal discourses are advanced spiritual study. The Art of Spiritual Dreaming and others seem to actually go deeper than the discourses in concepts and the details of stories. The ECK Dream 1 discourse by Harold Klemp, page 148, may have this list of 3 sorts of dreams of Eckankar members, but the Art of Spiritual Dreaming by Harold Klemp, page 122, has a list of 8 types of dreams by members. These are daydreams, intuition, dreams, dreams of intrusion, dreams of release of fear, the waking dream, the golden-tongued wisdom, which is part of the ancient science of prophecy, the Ekvidya. I think that was it's a section on my Eckankar Tarot painting, so I've gone into it elsewhere on this list. Dreams of understanding and dreams with the Mahanta. These Mahanta dreams are an interpretation of what one doesn't think fits another category as being a visit from or to the current corporate head. This type also includes Ekmasters, golden wisdom temples, and other projections on consciousness that members often program into themselves or let others brainwash them into seeing. Al-Quran, Surah 68, Ayat 51 and 52 is used as a prayer against the illusory projections of disbelievers that can be said as a means of protection against hallucinations and undesirable sights of the unseen. I can't help but think that Ek is spelt like that as an acronym for something. What could each letter stand for? The meaning placed on the word is so varied, and it is difficult to tell exactly what is meant by Ek. Well, a lot of people in the group can mean all sorts of stuff and basically be saying the same words, so it actually sort of forms an interfaith sort of function. Golden tongue wisdom is pareidolia, or seeing patterns and connections as clear and significant. The other Ikvedya practices include apophenia, or seeing patterns, or connections, where there are none. Well, everything's connected somehow, but you know what I mean. Another story mentions how people wanted advice on moving a number of states away in order to live somewhere bigger, but didn't want to separate from the local Eckankar community. Now, someone may watch this and want me to share the video. No, I'll share the verses. So, let me see where we're at. I'm not sure if I have a... No, I don't. Wayakadulabina katharuleus lekunaka beamsarehin lama same udekrawayakulunanahu lamajnun wamahuala kunalalamin. And there are people that are trying to cast magic against people, that they want to project upon people, and they want to call people that actually have the spiritual consciousness crazy. But the sacred sounds, like you've just heard, they're guidance for creation. Now, I'm doing an interpretive translation there, but I will share more literal translations, as I have in the past, and you can check into some of that. There isn't any mention of anything that can be called direct guidance by the Mahanta, but that is how their son offering his house with a garden for them to rent, as he was moving to another Air Force base because of a promotion. It was what they wanted, but they needed a strange dream to convince them to move that summer. The wife had a dream of a large sphere of fluid that was faintly golden. She left her home in it and ended up thinking that they could be within the sphere no matter where they went. Okay, I left something that I was going to show, but I was just going to show the sphere, the chart, anyways. The interpretation of this being their part of love of Ekankar, seems sound, but the lack of solidarity and the faint color implies a diluted spirituality without a base in physical realities. Should her perceptions from the view as a soul have taught her that Ekankar is a mix of baseless speculations and partial truths? People should be open to be surprised by learning or getting something we would have wanted in an unexpected way. Such was the dreams between 2 and 5 a.m. at an Ekankar seminar by an Ekankar member. She intended to awake at 5 to finish composing a song. She woke up to contemplate what lesson each dream had before going back to sleep. Her alarm didn't turn on and she awoke at around the time she intended to. She was awakened by her roommate snoring instead. Was her disturbed sleep a special gift or a sign to not finish the song? The guidance of the dreams she had is unknown to the reader. It is safe to say these dreams offered little to lead people to think that Harold Klemp, or one of the previous living Eckmasters, was ever anyone's dream master. Eck Dream 1 Discourses by Harold Klemp, page 151, relates 3 dreams where someone was said to have insight to their development. Ekankar seminars have been in hotels or have involved a deal with Hilton or another hotel to attract Ekats to stay there during a seminar held at the locality. Does this make dreaming about watching clowns in a hotel lobby mean that Ekankar members were a joke to her and what they were doing? She seemed to get the message of the clown who traveled to spread cheer, to not take herself as seriously. Can being serious be just as good of a way to develop or help others to feel better? Her dream of caring over a plot in a communal garden may not have been to passively let others fail around her while she could help. Ekankar members often have an elitist thought that those who don't consider themselves Ekist are not even spiritual and are bound to fail in life. The dream about missing out on a gift of an apple because of being distracted on a street, only to have a similar opportunity to receive an apple, may really be about overlooking spiritual gifts that others are the means for. Could it be a way out of Ekankar? She knew she was trying to be more aware of something. The same page, and page 151, tells of the dreams of another woman's dream about someone trying to mentally control her. She had bad moods and was quite irritable. In desperation, she tried to submit to the Mahanta, or the spiritual leader of Ekankar, as if he was a god for a couple weeks. She didn't notice the same darkness, and the Ek flowed through her. The god-possessed talk of Ekankar and Ek in such context sounds more like demons from the fire beings, fallen angels, jinn, asuras, devas, fari, to many of us who were raised upon one of the prophet of God-based religions, are just people who really know those languages. The night after starting this practice, she dreamed about traveling home from an Ekankar seminar with a friend. Now, when I put quotes, I'm saying what's actually being said, to distinguish my own words from the other. In this dream, she hopped out of the driver's seat to nap while the car drove itself. Could this be a dream of Ekankar being a relatively reckless spiritual path, despite it seeming to have all the desired functions at a rate that could be handled at the time? Harold Klemp's interpretation on page 152 of the Ekadream 1 Discourses is along the lines of letting him take over the decisions for the person. Another dreamer dreamt about showing guests a room that she forgot. Plants were hanging from the ceiling that had grown in a deformed way. A skinny cat lived there that merged into the thick cat that lived downstairs after angrily knocking over an ashtray. This dreamer was in Ekankar for a few months, during when Darren Gross was the only one called living Ekmaster. She rejoined 14 years later. In her forgetting her spiritual side, she picked up smoking. I would agree about her developing spirituality in an odd way, due to not paying attention to it. I would agree about her. Did I say about her? I would also agree with the idea that quitting recreational drugs would help her to put her physical and spiritual sides in agreement with each other. The Ekadream 1 Discourses by Harold Klemp, pages 153 and 154, mentioned someone who dreamt of rock climbing on El Capitan in Yosemite National Park in California. He was perched on a narrow ledge when he realized he had not secured his rope to any of the pegs the whole way. He clung for dear life till the cliff gave way. He flew to where he could rest comfortably on the mountain and watch the events. Rest points in eternity is what Ekankar calls the places of detachment where we review things. Is the better interpretation to look at progress in Ekankar as not having a firm grounding and actual spiritual authority, and that is what he became aware of? One mother had a dream during a troubled time in her life. She dreamt that her son pointed out that Harold Klemp was riding in a car behind them. Well, behind hers. That makes sense, yeah. In the dream, Harold Klemp urged her to follow him. Is it a good idea to turn around and follow one who is not quite as far down the road as you? Another dreamer dreamt about dogs entering her home by force. Her housekeeper urged her to chant. She dreamt that she chanted, "Hugh," till her husband woke her. The Hugh chant was as an exorcism of negative influences for her. Why would negative things be able to intrude upon her in nightmares. If a Mahanta could really protect a dreamer. People try for something called God realization in Ekankar, but are often too impatient. Paul Twitchell once tried to have God realization by a particular day, but nothing unusual happened. The references to it being the high consciousness, and high consciousness is a direct quote, because I do want to distinguish that. On page 155 of the Ek Dream 1 Discourses by Harold Klemp makes sense as having a correct comprehension of what God is, but that is not the implication that they want you to have. They want people to think anyone they call an Ekmaster not only completely understands God, but becomes a god or God-man. That would make them essentially as omniscient as God, and that would imply that they are omnipresent and omnipotent as well. The ideas of multiple figures like that has a number of logical problems. Should your concept of a God awareness only be about living with the idea of God existing? Someone set a goal to be God realized in their 12th year in Ekankar. Was his loss of material and social well-being before the 2 months were up a sign of his failure? A lot of gospel prosperity stuff. You see all these churches opening for Easter, but the regular services, not the people that are going to come all the time. That's not a good sign. People only let themselves down, not the voices they trained themselves to hear in their head. The voice remind the 12th anniversary of the day he had joined Ekankar was only 11 days ahead. He felt better that day and took a bike ride. He thought Harold Klemp was talking to him through a child that admired his bike. Is this golden-tongued wisdom anything but the free association of the mind? Well, we certainly have to use our minds. He thought his mother looked like a gypsy from the group of travelers mentioned on the news. Should people attribute any of these associations in waking life or in dreams to a Mahanta or Wayshower, giving them even any of their insights? If the spiritual exercises of Ek is really a way to develop our dream worlds and such things, wouldn't it be our own development without any intermediaries between us and God? Harold Klemp on page 156 says, the tree of the mind bears little fruit in the worlds of spirit. Is he right, or is our mind the vehicle of consciousness that is the means by which we have the wisdom and understanding which we have the right to expect as the enlightened being? Look and listen for the light and sound of God with a few hue. On page 157 of the Ek Dream 1 Discourses by Harold Klemp, we have the spiritual exercise of the 19th month in Ekankar. The first question is, why would this one work well for many who are further along in their understanding of Ek? I'm not trying to be condescending, I just want to distinguish. I would recommend that part about being still in a quiet place of one's home and looking and listening with the screen of your heart, but the part about lovingly thinking of the current human leader of Ekankar as master is too far. The idea that it works better may have to do with the deeper indoctrination of members. As time goes along, idolatry, superstition, and worship of the living Ekmaster seems to be deeper and more common as the discourses progresses. I find my sense of opposition to the movement growing with the more I learn about it. One may be able to guess that it starts by saying Hugh, like Hugh, a few times. Getting rumbling in the tumbly at the mention of the Hugh. One looks for light during this, and then one goes silent and listens for a sound behind the more obvious sounds. Should we interpret the light and sound we see as light and sound of God? There are psychedelics And there are the existing sights and sounds that will be noticed before one gets in that state. Light and sound belongs to God. Wouldn't you agree that it is usually going too far to try to find special or unique messages from God in such things? I started including this as part of my nighttime routine on the night after sunset on August 11th, 2014, between 3:24 and 5:59 a.m. Pacific Daylight Time on Friday the 3rd of October 2014, or the 10th of the 12th month of 1435. In the 10th and 11th hour of the night, I had the following experience with my final working of this rite. I felt a few rushes of relaxing euphoria as I drifted off to sleep. I saw myself in a vehicle like a blue sphere encased in a square red sheet with a hole cut out. I ascended through vibrating layers of color: lettuce green, flesh pink, neon orange, lapis lazuli blue, fleshy purple, dandelion yellow, other yellows, white and clear. Surrounded by the blocky vehicle, I descended without seeing the colors. I did hear different sounds, at one at a time. It started with a breathy hue, but sort of the Egyptian word is what I think about. Although I'm sure that's not the only, because who. Then was the sound of a whirlpool, a woodwind's symphony, a hum, a light wind, a sharp flute note, bees dripping water, a metallic tinkling sound, the roar of the surf, and a crash of thunder. The vehicle disappeared, and I was led along by a big black dog. It led me to a woman who was covered in 4 flowers that collected water like cups. There was this wonderful smell in the air. Gold dust rained down upon the silver dirt that the plant life grew out of. All disappeared. I was given a point of view that showed the current position of only Uranus and Mars in the solar system. I saw myself in a different place. I was being led by a little dog that followed a raccoon. I arrived at a mulberry tree. There was a woman there. I did not notice the raccoon and the little dog. After noticing her, I stayed there with her till we ate 3 bunches of its fruit. One was white, the second was red, the final bunch was blackish. I heard something run, and she was gone. Her silken shawl was left behind. I heard different sized lions in the distance. I walked on and saw 3 sets of gazelle tracks in the parched land that was far away. For a moment, I only saw the position of the sun and Venus in the solar system. Later on, I saw a crow or a raven drop coins into a blocky goblet. One had the symbol for Saturn, and the other had the Gahtaya symbols for the 12th of the year under the period of Leo, or numbers 33 to 38. There was both a blue coin and an orange coin to renounce Ga'ap. There was a red coin to renounce Furfur. There was a silver coin to renounce Rakasias. There was a blue coin to renounce Stalos. There was a forest green coin to renounce Astaroth. There was a silver coin to renounce Phoenix. There was a red coin to renounce Halphas. A centaur led 100 cavalry to the place where the cup was. This drove the crow or raven away. The cup broke, leaving 2 piles of coins, and I guess I have to break and get back to this later. So remember to go ECK yourself.